Today we're looking at regression lines on Excel. So what we're going to do is I'm going to look at the data that we looked at earlier today on GPA and SAT scores. And we are going to try to do this quickly on Excel. It's a little quicker than by hand. So what we're going to first do is we're going to find our R, slope, and intercept. These are all the skills we're going to do. What I like to do also, though, is I like to just have a sense of my data. I always like to know the mean. I like to know the standard deviation, whether it's really spread out or not. For all of my data values, that means my explanatory, which is my GPA, and my response, which is my SAT. So I'm going to go ahead and first just fill these in with average for GPA. We just Control-Shift down. Now the one I want you to be aware of is the standard deviation, because there's a lot of choices when we're trying to find the standard deviation. That is how spread out the data is. You are going to actually choose standard deviation .s. The reason is that this is a sample, all right? This is not the entire population. So we are just going to do that s, since we only, of course, have 8 items here. That's definitely not everybody. So now we can start to see it. It is a little hard to see because of all those decimal points. So I'm just going to make it smaller. The information is still held in Excel, but this way you can see it. And so then let's just do it for the other two as well. All right, so now I can see there's actually, given the mean is 2.8, there's quite a bit of spread around the standard deviation, around the GPA. And then for the SAT, I've got this nice mean right here, and I can also get an idea of this spread, so I can see that, when you get to the super, super low values, there just really aren't that many of them at all, nor the super high values. All right, nice to know. Next, correlation coefficient, really fast on here, coral. When you do that, you do array 1, array 2. If you want, you can bring down that function box. I just highlight my explanatory variable, comma, and then my response variable, enter, and there it is. Nice and quick. You can see it out more decimals if you want, but again, I think it's easier when it's just small to kind of take in. So you have a nice 0.5 moderate relationship. For slope, you just type in the word slope. Click on that. Now here it tells you on the directions. If we do the y's, which is your response variable first, comma, x's, all right? So it's going to be the SATs first, comma, GPA. So do pay attention to that. For the intercept or the starting point, you just type in the word intercept. Again, it's the y's first, so our response variable first, and then our explanatory variable. And now we have all the information about our graph. This is awesome. The only issue is I don't even know if I can really do a regression yet, so I better make a scatter plot of this data. So to make a scatter plot, you just simply highlight your data, right? Go to Insert, and over here on Charts, and we're going to do this dot line right here. Okay, so now I have a nice scatter plot. I want to make it so I can really see these lines a little bit better. I'm not going to worry about standardizing it, okay, since I can get the information I need from these numbers that I just found. So what I want to do is adjust the axes, okay? I've got a lot of dead space here, right here, and down here. So the first thing I'm going to adjust is my x-axis, okay? So I double click on that. This pops up. I can go right here. Into my data place, axes options, you can open it if it's not open. So I'm just going to put 1.25 right here, hit enter, and now you can see it's nicely spread out. I can see the data better. I still want to even get a better look at it, so I'm going to get rid of this dead space here. So I'm going to double click on the y-axis this time, and when I double click on the y-axis, I can see the minimum starts about 1,000. At 1,000 there's nothing there, so I'm just going to change this over here to 1,000. Hit enter, and now I can really see the data. So does it work? If I met my conditions, it looks like it's somewhat linear. There's no clear outliers. If there were, I could deal with them, and it is quantitative data, so I am okay. So I'm going to move on from here. Okay, next thing I want to do is make a regression line. So to make a regression line, it's not that hard at all. I activate my axes, I'm in design, I go over here to chart elements and trend line. Okay, what I like to do is actually just go to more trend line options and open it up. I know I want it to be linear, and down here is an awesome little thing. I can actually have it display the equation on the chart. All right, and here I can see it right here. For this, what I would also like to do is double click on this and activate it here. Okay, and what I want to do So next thing I'm going to do is just a little bit of making it look nice. So I'm going to double click on this. I was over here doing the trend line. I'm going to go over here to the paint bucket where I can actually make adjustments on how it looks. Okay, I'm going to make it a different color from my data point so it really pops out. I also am going to make it a little bit thicker. All right, and I'm also going to actually make it a line so you can just really see that straight line coming through. The other thing I might do is actually click on these, all of my little points here, my markers, and I'm going to open up the marker option. I might want to make these a different color. To do that, you just click on built-in, and then I can have these other options if for some reason you do want squares, and if you want to make them bigger or smaller. You really want to be able to see them, but you don't want too many overlapping. So here, since I don't have many, I can just make them this size and it looks fine. The other thing I do is I make the equation the same color. I made it a little bit bigger. And I also think about if I'm doing a presentation, I'm showing graphs of presentation, I really want just to get the big idea. When there's a lot of numbers at the decimal, people get kind of lost in those and it's hard to get the big idea. So I'm going to actually round these off to a whole number here. It's a big enough number where I can do that. So I'm just going to leave this at 97x, and this would round off, that would be a 1024. So now it's just easier for someone to quickly look at it and grasp what's going on. I just want to quickly go over axes labels, just a really quick way to do that. So again, we activate this, we go to design. If I plug in my axes titles here, let's say I just want to quickly do a horizontal one. The second I click on it, you can see it's activated right here. I can actually immediately type in, just begin typing GPA. You'll see it pops up right here. And if I hit enter, there it is. So I didn't have to do a lot of clicking in. I can do the same for the horizontal axis. The other thing I want to show you here, the very last thing I want to show you, we've put in our axes titles, is fading out the background image. So I'm going to present this information. I want an image that lets people kind of have their head in the mode of what we're talking about. So I'm going to double click on the back and I'm going to actually put in a picture. And the thing that's nice about this picture, I've already kind of done some work on, is it's not real. It doesn't take over the initial image. So over here you can see this thing called transparency. Right now the picture is super bright, so actually the first thing I see when I look at it is a pencil. I am not paying attention to my tape, to the data points, nor to the regression line. So I really want to have that in the background that just gives a sense of it. So if I go over to transparency, I can increase that transparency, and as I increase it, it becomes less, you don't see it as much, it kind of fades into the background. So now I kind of give it the right mood, right? But without sacrificing what I'm really want you to look at. When you're done, you'll put your graph on a separate sheet. You're going to have two graphs, and on those what I want to see at the top is your findings. So I'm looking at my findings with respect to the slope. That is how much SAT scores in this case increased when GPA increased by 1, which is 97 points. I'm looking at my findings with respect to my intercept. That is when GPA is 0, we predict the SAT scores will be 1024. And then I also want my findings with respect to my correlation, stating what the correlation is, whether strong, moderate, or weak, and the actual number that you have here.